Have you ever felt trapped by the circumstances of life, your emotions, or even a lack of direction? What if I told you there is a secret to achieving personal freedom? Stay until the end and discover the key that William James, one of the greatest psychologists in history, left us. Imagine living your life with more control, more autonomy, and the feeling of truly being in charge of your destiny. This may seem like something hard to achieve, right? But what if I told you that true freedom is not about eliminating all the obstacles in your life, but rather about how you respond to them? William James, one of the most influential psychologists in history, believed that personal freedom lies precisely in the choices we make every day. Today, let's explore the secrets he left us about how to achieve our inner freedom and live a more fulfilling life. What is personal freedom according to William James? William James saw freedom in a unique way. For him, freedom was not about the absence of external limitations, but rather the ability to consciously respond to life's challenges. What did he mean by that? Well, he believed that we all have the power to choose how we react to situations, regardless of what happens around us. In James's view, freedom is not about escaping life's difficulties. He believed that true freedom lies in how you choose to behave in the face of difficulties, how you decide to control your emotions and mindset when things don't go as expected. The idea of consciously responding is liberating. James said that, often, the very response we give to a situation can be more powerful than the event that caused us discomfort. Instead of reacting automatically or impulsively, we can pause and reflect, making choices that allow us to grow. Now, imagine you are going through a challenging situation, maybe a failure or a loss. What James taught us is that you are not just a victim of circumstances. You have the power to choose how this situation will affect you. This is true freedom, the ability to control your emotional and mental response to any situation. These ideas from James challenge us to reflect on how we react to daily stress, how we handle pressure, and most importantly, how we can choose what to do with our emotions. Freedom is in our ability to control emotional reactions, rather than being governed by them. James was one of the leading advocates of pragmatism, a philosophy that focuses on practical results and the application of ideas that truly work. In pragmatism, truth is not something abstract, but rather what has practical value for our everyday lives. What does this have to do with personal freedom? James believed that, in order to have freedom, we need to act practically. When faced with an obstacle, instead of thinking that there's nothing we can do, he challenges us to act in a practical and productive way, choosing the best possible response to the situation. James's pragmatism teaches us that ideas should be evaluated by their usefulness. In other words, if you apply an idea and it actually helps solve your problems, it is a valid truth. Therefore, freedom also lies in knowing how to choose actions that have the greatest positive impact on your life. For example, if you are facing a financial problem, the solution may not be to wait for things to improve on their own, but to take practical actions such as organizing your finances, seeking new sources of income, or cutting unnecessary expenses. James believed that people need to act in order to truly achieve freedom. Practical action is one of the greatest symbols of personal freedom, and he taught us not to be passive in the face of difficulties. If you can't change the external situation, change your internal response. This is what James considered true freedom of action. For him, acting in a practical and conscious way, without waiting for life to give us all the answers, is the true essence of freedom. We are the architects of our lives, and by acting with purpose, we can shape our reality according to our goals. Before we continue, I want to challenge you. Stop for a moment and think of a difficult situation you're facing right now. Ask yourself, How can I respond differently to this? What practical steps can you take to solve it? If you're ready to, make that choice now. Like this video to show you're ready to act. Let's continue. One of the central concepts in William James's psychology is that of the active will. For him, true freedom is not just about having the option to choose, but the ability to act intentionally to create real change in your life. The active will is our ability to make conscious and directed choices, even when the path seems difficult. This means that, when facing an obstacle, we can decide how to act towards the solution, rather than simply reacting emotionally to the problem. James saw the active will as a muscle that must be trained. The more we practice making conscious decisions, the stronger this ability becomes in us. Instead of being dominated by circumstances, we begin to shape them with our choices. Now, here's an important point. The active will is not something you simply receive or inherit. It is a skill you can develop over time. Like any skill, it requires practice and self-discipline. When you challenge yourself to make difficult decisions, even when you don't feel like it, or when circumstances are unfavorable, you are strengthening your active will. This directly applies to our daily lives. Every time you decide to act, even when you don't feel like it, you are strengthening this capacity. For example, if you don't feel like studying or working on an important project, the active will is what will push you to act anyway. Freedom is not just a matter of the mind, but also of emotions. For James, true personal freedom involves emotional self-control. He believed that by controlling our emotional reactions, we gain power over our life experience. Imagine you're stuck in a cycle of anxiety. James would say that the key to overcoming this emotion is not to suppress the feeling, but to choose how to react to it. You can learn to redirect emotional energy, turning anxiety into motivation or focus. In other words, emotions don't control you. The opposite is true. Instead of running away from negative emotions, you can learn to embrace them, understand their causes, and use them to your advantage. This is the type of emotional freedom that James taught us to cultivate. Emotional freedom comes when we learn not to be enslaved by our emotions. James believed that by choosing how to react emotionally, we gain control over our own destiny. Now, think of a time when a strong emotion overtook you, like anger or sadness. How would you have reacted differently if you had chosen not to be governed by that emotion? This kind of reflection is essential to achieving emotional freedom. Now, I want to present another challenge to you. Think of a recent time when you allowed yourself to be overtaken by an emotion, perhaps anger or fear. I challenge you to comment below on how you could have reacted differently, choosing your response instead of being controlled by the emotion. Together, let's create a stronger and freer community through this exchange of ideas. So, how can you apply all of this in your life? The answer is simple. Make conscious choices every day. It's not about waiting for freedom, but about acting with it every day. Every time you make a conscious decision, you're creating your own freedom. Start with small choices, like deciding how to react to a difficult situation or adopting a more positive attitude. Over time, these small choices lead to great transformations. James teaches us that freedom lies in our ability to make directed decisions. It's not about waiting for life to change on its own, but about taking control and acting in ways that change your reality. So, if you want to break free from negative patterns, limiting thoughts, or an emotional cycle, start now. The choices you make every day define who you are and who you will become in the future. William James left us a great legacy. True freedom doesn't come from changing the world, but from changing our response to it. You have the power to change your life through your daily choices. So, start today. Choose freedom. Choose to act now. If you've been inspired by these ideas from William James, like the video to show you're ready to take control of your life. Comment below if you've accepted the challenges we've presented here, and share this video with someone who needs to hear this. Let's continue together on this journey to true personal freedom.